Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be covering Jordan Peele's Get Out, released in 2017. Get Out was an immediate hit upon release, gathering attention, as the man behind the camera was a beloved comedian and actor turned horror director. The film was immediately loved universally, even gathering attention by the Academy and won the award for Best Original Screenplay. For my personal thoughts, I love Jordan Peele. The way that he crafts characters, suspense, and original stories always blow me away. Especially with the way that he always includes black representation and occasionally discusses race within his films, which is very evident in Get Out. But one of the most notable things to consider in Get Out is his usage of camera work and point of view. I'm going to be analyzing three different scenes and how Peele utilizes point of view effectively. The first scene I wanted to cover is the hypnosis scene. So the scene starts out with Chris walking into the backyard for a quick smoke break after a strange dinner the night before. The camera is already set to where Chris ends up walking to, as if the audience is joining Chris outside. We then cut to a first person point of view of the ominous backyard, which I'd like to note has really nice framing, as the tree guides your eyes across the shot, and the lighting on the trees add to the dark atmosphere and makes it feel less empty. After Chris spots one of the family's workers sprinting towards him, the film then decides to switch from its regular shot to a much more close, intimate shot, showing the expression of realization on Chris's face. Doing these close shots is a very effective way to make the audience's reaction blend with the characters. We then see the maid checking out her appearance in the reflection of the window, leading Chris to head back inside, where Missy is introduced to the scene as Chris walks past. Chris then sits down with Missy and discusses a traumatic incident in his childhood. Missy discusses this to make Chris more vulnerable and easier to hypnotize. As they discuss, the camera pulls towards Chris, again forming more intimate shots. These shots differ from how the scene started, as it gives a much more claustrophobic feel, which is most likely the way that Chris is feeling. The scene is also interwoven with shots of Missy's spoon grinding along the edges of the teacup, with raw and crisp sound design, which shows the importance of the teacup within the claustrophobic setting of the scene. Additionally, the scene is interwoven with Chris's memory of where he was during the childhood incident, with the scene showing visual similarities between the two, and representing how much of an effect the memory is having on Chris at the moment. It's clear that something is wrong here. The close shots on Chris, his hazy memories, and the grinding of the teacup all suggest a subjective point of view from Chris, as an objective point of view would have a far more normalized approach. For instance, if this scene had a subjective point of view from Missy, the scene would feel far more calm, as she's done this many times before, and from her perspective, there's nothing wrong about this at all. The next scene that I wanted to cover is the very first scene of the film, where we follow the abduction of Andre that gives us context for his presence later in the film. In the beginning of the scene, Andre is blatantly confused on where to go. The way they set up the setting in this scene is very effective, as the repetitive suburbs and the dark lighting also provide the audience a sense of being lost. The camera follows Andre down the sidewalk until he decides which way to turn. Once he starts walking, we're introduced to the vehicle of the person who abducts Andre. At first, the scene implies that this is a normal car that's passing, but as the camera shifts around Andre, we see that the camera is actually following the car. As the car approaches, Andre notices and keeps walking. We see the car drive off as Andre turns around, and we follow Andre, not having any idea where the car actually went, as the audience. It's only after Andre himself looks that we see the car has been parked and the door has been open, and once Andre looks to the side, the abduction begins. After a bit of struggle, the abductor successfully subdues him and tosses him into the trunk. This scene is very effective, as the camera seems to always be on Andre, even with the amount of movement in the scene. It feels as though the audience is him, feeling what he's feeling and seeing what he's seeing, adding to the unease of the scene. The last scene I wanted to cover is the famous Get Out scene. The scene begins with Chris walking back into the party. It's met with shots of people varying in age, gender, and race, all looking at Chris. The individual shots of them looking directly at the camera reflect their interest in Chris, as they ask Chris about the African American experience. Chris decides to reflect the question onto Andre, or in this case, Logan King. Logan responds in a very unexpected way to Chris, as Chris feels that since Logan is African American, there would finally be a sense of connection or familiarity in visiting this house. But Chris is dumbfounded by the way Logan responds and acts. So, he whips out his phone as the banality of the conversation continues in the background. When he snaps a picture, the music cuts, the dialogue cuts, everything cuts. We see a tiny flash of tint in Logan's eyes as he fixes them on Chris before telling him to get out, running up to him in a panic. This scene displays yet another weird scenario Chris encounters at the house, and it's riddled with subtle moments that you understand so much after the plot twist of the film is revealed. The reason this is from the perspective of Chris is because of all the scenes preceding it, as we witness the strange events happening around the house with Chris, one after another. Get Out is spectacular in the way that it approaches perspective and point of view, which is why the plot twist is so iconic and memorable, and why the film ultimately took home that Best Screenplay award. Thank you for watching.